Chinese New Year is just around the corner, and the reunion dinner is the most important day in this whole Chinese New Year period. And if you are like me, preparing for reunion dinner, it can be a rather stressful time. So today I'll share with you 5 tips and principles that I use to plan my reunion dinners. And at the end of it, I will share with you a list of dishes that you can use for this year's reunion dinner. Tip number 1, cook it yourself. But steamboat, again? Instead of steamboat every year, why not try mookata or Korean barbecue? Mix it up every year and it gets a bit more exciting. Everyone still gets to cook their own food, so you don't need to do any cooking. But if you're doing a more traditional sit-down dinner, here are some other tips for you. Tip number 2, have a variety of ingredients. I would say the basics would be a fish, a pork, a chicken. I would say the basics would be a chicken, a fish, and
polycarbohydrates.
Tip number 2, have a variety of ingredients. I would say the basics will be a fish, pork, chicken, and some sort of carbs. Or if you have a lot more people, maybe you can add a beef, a duck, and maybe a prawns or some kind of shellfish. But whatever ingredients you use, do not repeat your ingredients. In other words, do not have 2 pork or 2 chicken. Tip number 3, have a variety of cooking methods. So have a dish that's boiled, a dish that's steamed, fried, braised, stewed. Just like in tip number 2, have a variety of cooking methods. Tip number 4, prepare ahead of time. When it comes to cooking for a crowd, the freezer is your best friend. Pick recipes that you can cook ahead of time or recipes that you can prepare partially ahead of time. At the end of this video, I'll give you a list of dishes that you can prepare like 2 to 3 days ahead. Tip number 5, divide and conquer. There's no need to cook every dish yourself. You can always order takeout to supplement your main list of dishes. You can also get someone to cook from their home and bring it over to your place. And don't forget to get someone to help you out in the last 2 to 3 hours before dinner is served. So with these 5 tips in mind, here's a list of 8 dishes for about 6 to 8 people that you can use for this reunion dinner. The first dish is the starter, and in my family, yusang will be that dish. It's pretty easy to do because either we order takeout or we go to the supermarket and buy something, bring it home and assemble it. The next dish you can do is lotus root soup. This is a great dish because you can cook it 2 days ahead of time and keep it in your fridge. As with most soups and stews, the longer you keep it, the more flavor it will develop and the better it will taste. The link to the recipe for the lotus root soup is in the description below. For the chicken dish, try the herbal emperor chicken. This is another great dish to cook because you can cook it in the afternoon and keep it warm in the oven till dinner time. And as with the Chinese New Year tradition, retain the head and the feet because as this saying, 有头有尾. It means to have a good start and a good end to the year. For the fish, I suggest either the steamed fish in black bean sauce or the easier Chinese-style soy sauce steamed fish. They are easy to put together, but you need to cook it just before you serve it. For these 2 dishes, the 有头有尾 principle applies here as well. For the pork dish, go to the market and buy your char siu and roast pork or siu you. These two items can be kept in the freezer for up to 2 weeks. To prepare them, all you need to do is to defrost them and stick it in the oven. For the char siu, you can make char siu in your oven. Or, if you have an air fryer, make it in the air fryer. I have an easy recipe for that as well. For the vegetable dish, I suggest Buddha's Delight or Lo Hon Zai. This is a braised vegetable dish, so you can cook it and keep it in the fridge for 2 days. And like the soup, it develops flavor over the 2 days in the fridge. For the carbs, try long life noodles or yi mein. It's just traditional. It's easy and it's fast to cook, as long as you prepare the ingredients ahead of time. However, this dish, you need to cook it just before serving. And remember, long noodles means long life. So don't cut the noodles short. And lastly, for dessert, I suggest green bean soup with gula melaka. Not really traditional, but you can cook this ahead of time. You can cook this in the afternoon and keep it warm and serve it warm for dinner. Or you can cook it the day before, put it in the fridge and serve it cold for dinner. So of the 8 dishes, only the yu sang and the roast pork you need to buy. The steamed fish and the noodles are the only 2 dishes you need to cook just before serving. I hope these tips, principles and recipes will help you create a more stress-free reunion dinner. All the links to the recipes I've mentioned are in the comments below. If you have other tips and comments, please leave them in the comments below. And Happy New Year!